Okay, so once again, this is InfoWars, directed by Alex Jones. Martial Law 9/11, Rise of the Police State. This says that it's out of the ashes of the September 11th tragedy, Dark Empire of War and Tyranny. That's probably accurate, but maybe in a different way. The Constitution has been shredded, folks. The Constitution has been shredded. Learn the terrifying secrets that hold the future of the world in its grasp. Okay.
21st century. Terrorism was used by governments across the world as a pretext to scare their populations into submission. Life became a surveillance grid nightmare, with every individual's actions ruthlessly catalogued and recorded by the state. Secret arrests, checkpoints, and warrantless searches spread. The final incremental march of the police state, culminating in open martial law. This is the story of how the elite sold their people into slavery and scared the once proud and brave people of the West into submitting to being cannon fodder in wars for world domination.
Show volume.
Our enemies have made clear the danger they pose to our security.
We're just right outside the security perimeter at this national security event in New York City, just a few hundred yards away from Madison Square Garden, where at least 10,000 police are stationed, supposedly providing security for the Republican National Convention and all the delegates and media that are going to be here.
Sadly, we live in a world where for the foreseeable future, you're going to have to provide security all the time.
Is that Bloomberg?
Who do you work for? Well, you need to tell us. I mean, this is a free country. Officer, can you tell me this guy's badge number? Secret police just covers his badge up? Secret police in America.
This is what's called ambush journalism, and I disrespect you for that as well. So thank you and goodbye.
In the ritual?
It's none of your damn business.
We're also going to be talking to the protesters and finding out if the protesters are discussing real issues or if it's more of this phony left-right paradigm.
On Monday, that Zogby poll was released that showed 50% of New York City residents believe the government had foreknowledge and made a conscious decision not to intervene. 50% of the people who live in New York believe that.
Both candidates are cousins. They're skull and bones. They're bringing in big government and tyranny. The evidence is clear. The military-industrial complex was intimately involved in 9/11.
Many of the nearly 2,000 protesters arrested over the past few days have been taken to an old bus depot on Manhattan's west side.
We should call this facility what it is, and it's a concentration camp. It's the
I just want to make sure that
concentration camp.
We're not back to the quiet.
Oh yeah, folks. We're in the middle of it now.
The main show.
Stop exploiting the 9/11 tragedy!
Ladies and gentlemen, here is your Fuji-sponsored surveillance blimp.
Rollback of our civil liberties, just like them telling us we can't stand on the sidewalk
folks.
here. Yeah, we can. We went to court and we can.
That's what Bill Gates is bringing to America.
The Republicans are here and taking advantage of the 3,000 people that died right behind me for their own selfish politics, and it's very sad.
He is a man of perseverance. He is a man of inner strength. He is a leader who doesn't flinch, who doesn't waver, who does not back down.
He doesn't like Arnold either.
On September 11th, America was attacked. Suddenly, on September 12th, according to John Ashcroft and George Bush, 270 million Americans became the suspects.
Hey, Michael, why don't you talk about NORAD standing down?
There's an interaction I didn't know I needed. Alex Jones and Michael Moore.
Why not the really hardcore 9/11 issues? My friends, this is totally surreal. I'm in the middle of police, machine guns, high-tech sound weapons that are being used in Iraq. And the would-be dictator is on the radio. I'm in the middle of New York City. It's a hellhole of surveillance and police state. And the Bill of Rights being torched, being destroyed.
If you're here at 11:35, they will arrest you.
We traveled to New York to see the elite in action, but what we chronicled shook us to our very core. We were witnesses to the elite's ideology, to their mindset, their vision, their philosophy, and the martial law system that they are constructing, not just for the American people, but the population of the world. We're just right outside the security perimeter at this national security event in New York City, just a few hundred yards away from Madison Square Garden, where in just a few hours, they'll be starting up the official coronation, Skull and Bones coronation, part 2 for John Kerry's cousin, George W. Bush, right here in New York City. We'll chronicle the police state, the surveillance blimps, the sound wave cannons.
You know what? Remember,
and we'll discuss 9/11 with New Yorkers
that our cops
by traveling
had
to Ground Zero and find out
weapons.
how many of them are questioning the official story that has holes in it that you can fly a 747 through. You were saying that a lot of people aren't on the street now. What percentage of New Yorkers have left town? 50% have left? Are New Yorkers happy about the RNC coming to town?
They don't.
They're not happy? Sir, what percentage of New Yorkers like Bush and like the convention being here?
I think about 10%.
What does the other 90% think?
They left city.
Is he just asking random people to tell him, like, he's doing like a giant poll, but only asking one person? How does that work? I don't feel like this information is going to be very, reliable.
Everybody's gone? How many, like 10% of the city's left? Half
is
the
he
city
sitting in the front with the cab driver?
80% has left? We'd been in New York about an hour before we were threatened with arrest for having our video cameras in the subway.
Any one of them. May I ask you what you're doing, sir?
Okay, will you tell me again so I know what to do?
I'm not telling you what to do.
No, ma'am.
That's all I am telling you is that you got cops climbing out of... Okay, you have a convention and you have a terror
This is great. I
alert in
wish
this
all the
city.
content was like this.
Okay.
Well, tell me so I know what to do.
I don't know what you should do. Have a nice time.
Okay,
you want 34th Street. Okay,
What's with the weird
any
video?
train here will take you to 34th Street.
We were then threatened a second time with arrest for filming on the New York subway. And a woman who was separate from our group had her film camera taken, smashed, and the film destroyed. The footage you're about to see was shot clandestinely as the police took action against us.
I gotta talk to her because she took a picture.
Get arrested! I can't!
This is such a surreal one.
Why are we playing games?
John, you're a witness to what just happened. What did we do?
We took a picture of a homeless person, felt sorry for her, and gave her some money. And then we were promptly almost arrested by Port Authority police in a subway.
The police have been arresting reporters across the city, and a judge had ordered them to stop.
Okay, hold on a second. I want to counterpoint what he just said. I'm not trying to get into a debate or anything, but okay, so MTA in New York, the Transit Authority, you are allowed to take photos and videos on the New York subway, but only for personal, non-commercial use. So that might be where the issue is here. I don't know how they would know that, but obviously, even at this point, I would think Alex Jones was at least somewhat known. But according to what I see here, you can film on the subway. And it looks like you can even... It sounds like they're pretty amenable about making like allowances for people to film commercially, but it looks like you might have to
How about we go to whoever gave
get a
those to you
permit
and
or
get them
something.
revoked? I just asked you to do me a favor and not tape over
It's
here.
my fault, sir. I'm his boss.
No. Listen, first of all, I'm talking. I don't need you to interrupt me while I'm talking. All right?
Okay.
And I just got finished telling him that I don't want him taping over here. Nicely
Stop
go over to the island.
flipping out.
Were you here when I said that?
No, I was.
So why are you interrupting me now?
Say it's my fault.
How is it your fault if you're not here? All right?
How about we just leave?
That would be a great idea.
Okay.
Why don't you leave?
Okay.
Why don't you leave? That'd be a great idea. I wish the whole thing is like going to be like this.
I've almost been arrested 3 times every day, anywhere in the city, videotaping anything. It is an absolute nightmare. Hey guys, get your cameras on.
Okay.
Okay, let me have well, number one.
Hey, we're allowed to be here.
Folks, this is martial law. Sir, how many police were in New York?
40,000.
How's that?
That's a huge army.
It is.
I think we need
Yeah,
more
dude,
police. Not
Alex
enough
got
police.
handled
Maybe
on
we
that
need
one.
100 million police. How about
What?
50 cops for every New Yorker? How's that
100
sound?
million. God damn. Alex Jones versus 100 million police. That sounds like one of those TikToks that they do in like a war simulator game.
Claiming that a couple of Muslim guys were down here trying to take photos and video of all of this because they wanted to attack it. And they said it was a brand new threat, but it turned out that it was over 4 years old. And then when we got here to New York for the convention, they busted 2 guys who supposedly were going to go after the subway. And then in that case, too, it turned out that that was fake, that wasn't real. But all of these are used to scare the population into submission and as a pretext to up the police state and the despotism.
As we look upon the Fuji-sponsored surveillance blimp, can we take a moment to appreciate that Alex Jones just said that you shouldn't use stories to scare people. Like, that's what his entire business is built on. Even if he's right, like, how is he helping anybody? Does he really believe that the fucking Fuji blimp is this much of a concern? Like, this probably scares people that like looking for the Fuji blimp. Wow.
Out of the running man, right here in New York, we have police state surveillance blimps that are sponsored by Fujifilm. This is only the beginning. In the future, every major city will have a high-altitude blimp tethered to a cable with ground-penetrating radar that looks right through your walls and gives the government a black and white image of the inside of your home. This entire war on terror is truly a pretext to launch a military-industrial complex takeover of the entire society. Everything is now going to shift into prisons and surveillance and security. We're going out of the free market economy into the fascist economy. The elite has used socialism to consolidate the people's wealth. Now that it's under their control, they're going to phase out all of the programs for the population, and it's all going to corporate welfare. This is the new America. Sound weapons, police in black ski masks with automatic machine guns, and yes, helicopters swarming around surveillance blimps right here in New York City. And only in the new corporate fascist America would we have a blimp for police state purposes that is sponsored by a major company. And we found out that Fuji gave free bikes to all the police, and guess why? They sold the U.S. government and a bunch of different city governments, or trying to sell other city governments, these high-tech imaging systems, these face scanning systems to recognize who we are. So our face becomes the national ID card, and Fuji is on the cutting edge of that. In the past, football teams had sponsors, or baseball teams. Then it was named stadiums after phone companies, Southwestern Bell, Nextel. Now we have the Fuji.
What does he think the government is seeing when they do this? It would be such a waste of resources, like even for a wasteful entity like our government. Like, it's such a waste to spy on everybody because 99.9% of people are are doing nothing of any interest or value. And then, according to him, then, with Fuji being on the cutting edge of this surveillance stuff, then Fuji should have be like one of the biggest companies in the world, right?
Sponsor NYPD blimp.
Let's see what their company's valued at.
Follow the blimp. The blimp just flew over. Yeah, follow that blimp. Don't lose it. They're using that blimp for surveillance. We always know where the protests are at. There it is, sir. Follow that blimp.
No, Luis, what is
Can we clip that?
What do you guys think of the new security blimp?
Follow that blimp.
That's nice. I want to know how you get qualified to drive the blimp.
It says Fuji and NYPD.
Yes, it does. I want to go to blimp school because I want to fly the blimp.
So is Fuji now with the police department, or are you guys renting it?
I think we're renting it. You know.
Renting the balloon?
Yeah, believe it or not, right?
I heard a story that the police, in some of their helmets have cameras.
That I never heard.
I saw it on.
Well, their stock is $10.
That's kind of crazy.
What about the big sound wave guns? Where are those?
I haven't. That I know nothing about.
Did you hear about those?
No, I didn't.
Did you hear about how they got the sound?
I can't comment on anything like that.
Well, it was in the newspaper.
I can't comment. I'm not allowed to comment on anything like that.
On the, what are they called? The frequencies?
I don't know what they're called.
But you can't comment on them?
No.
You can neither confirm nor deny?
So it's going to be between 14th and 23rd Street, between 5th and 8th Avenue.
It's going to be on 3 Street. We're trying to find out how many of these protesters actually know what they're talking about and know what real issues
we're not
are.
Even 15 minutes in, and I feel like we've seen so much.
So we're going to now go down the road and get in front of the demonstration that's massing right now. Then it's going to march down towards Madison Square Garden. We'll be there covering it when they come marching in.
Well, that one guy was real happy. What they show him.
Sir, what do you think about the whole official 9/11 story?
Our government appears to be to have had a lot of cooperation with the forces that caused it to happen.
But I'm here to tell the world that Bush is wrong. He's a liar, he's evil, he's consolidated power in a way that is, it's bad.
Well, Bush is definitely Uh-oh. Oh, my God.
Now, as most of you know, we're not left-wing or right-wing. We're into freedom, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution. And whether it was Bill Clinton or George Bush, those freedoms are being destroyed. Under Bush, it's all accelerated.
He did look like he was talking.
I think if they were going to have a convention, they could have picked somewhere better than New York.
Is that performance
And it seems like
art?
Bush is trying to bind himself to the 9/11 tragedy. Do you have any comments on that?
I was there, and anybody that's going to try and put themselves above the people that actually help pull those people out is not worth my comment, man. I was there.
I've got a good base.
How's the convention going?
Convention's going good, no problems. Everything's good.
I heard some anarchists, though, were burning a dragon or a paper dragon.
Not over here. Everything's quiet, you know?
Uh-oh, another
so far,
mock
so good.
sacrifice.
What's the blimp doing?
From the globalists.
Just keeping an eye on things, I guess.
Oh, my God.
I love being a puppet for the New World Order. They will be my slaves. I am the mini-me of Lord Bush. Oh, it feels so good. I'm enslaving them and destroying the Bill of Rights. Oh, it's so powerful. I will soon rule everything. Oh, yes.
We've been talking to a lot of the protesters, and most of them say Bush bad, Kerry good.
About all this.
The problem is Bush and Kerry are cousins. Kerry's for the war. And one of the few signs that we've seen that is exposing that both of them work for the same people and are part of a false choice is this communist revolution sign. But you know, I go back to 1958 when Eisenhower called Fidel Castro the Abraham Lincoln of Latin America. And so the problem is that it was actually the big central banks at the turn of the last century that created communism as a way to try to con the serfs back into serfdom. So again, another false choice is what we have here.
What?
Bush-Kerry equals more war.
Do you think
I agree.
Really
They're corporate fascists. It's all true. But then the corporate fascists have funded this as their counter-revolution control valve. This is the true complexity that we're facing. And until we figure that out, we're going to lose all our freedoms. And they're going to keep winning.
It's so weird when people say that.
How you doing, ma'am? Hey, I like the top part of your sign. I agree they're all controlled. Are you a communist?
Go away.
But it says communist revolution.
I really don't want to
Stop bothering this lady. What are you worried about?
I'm not.
What did you say? I didn't hear you. How can you say that?
How can I say what?
Very nasty what you just said. Did you hear what he just said? Did you hear what this guy just said? He said something terribly nasty.
That stuff doesn't work.
You know, I don't know.
This isn't the 60s. Look, he's trying to agitate.
This is not
This doesn't work.
This is not the 60s. Don't happen anymore. We're living in the.
What I'm saying is, I'm saying
I don't know what you said, but I heard
communism.
on the side.
Communism.
Said something nasty.
You work for the U.S. government, don't you?
This guy said over here, this guy's nasty. Boy, he is nasty. You are nasty.
This is the content that I want right here.
Oh, the big banks. This man is from the big banks. He's from Chase, Manhattan.
See this? He isn't interested in information. He's actually interested in putting.
Okay, so this is art. First of all, this is fantastic. You have Alex Jones accusing this guy who looks this grandfather who looks like he just got home from a fishing trip with his grandson. He's accusing him of being a covert agent for the United States government. And then Grandpa is accusing Alex Jones, who looks like he just stepped off a mid-tier golf course. He's accusing him of working for Chase Bank. This is the kind of content that I love. This is fantastic.
Got this info.
Chase Manhattan and Citibank. And Citibank and Chase Manhattan are part of capitalism.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is the communist for you. All disinfo, all propaganda.
It's all part of capitalism. It's all part of capitalism, isn't it? You're a capitalist. You're a capitalist. You're a capitalist.
The U.S. government admits they put Mao in.
Capitalist.
You're the capitalist. No, you're the capitalist. You're what communism is all about. No, you're what communism is all about. This is art. This is fantastic. This is just, I love this.
U.S. government admits they put Mao in.
Capitalist. You're a capitalist, are you? How much money do you have on you if you're a capitalist? Free markets? What does that mean?
You're capitalist masters.
What does a free market mean? What's a free market? How long have you been a person?
Free market? What does that mean?
How long have you been a jerk? Right. How long have you been a jerk? How long have you been a jerk? How long have you been a jerk? How long have you been a jerk?
Do what, me?
Grow up.
Who should?
You should, asshole. Grow up.
Oh my gosh, this is so great.
With the top. Trying to find anything. I'm trying to be a disruptive jerk. Why don't you grow up and get out of here, please? You're a waste of time.
More war. I agree
Thank
with that.
you. Good.
But what I'm saying is that the communists were actually at the beginning funded by the same people. It's all consolidation. That's all I'm saying.
Good.
Look at the lady taking a picture of him with a Kodak disposable.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, sounds good to me. Right.
So you don't care that Stalin killed 50 million people?
So yeah. So go ahead. So what else?
So you don't care?
So who are you? Kill. How many people did you kill?
No one.
But your ideas killed millions and millions and millions. Capitalism. You're a capitalist. You're a pro-capitalist.
Hands for blood, right?
She wishes we were dead, right?
And also, like, I'm sorry that I keep pausing it, but this is so good I don't want to talk over it, but that Alex Jones at any point, no matter how you think about him, whether you think he's being honest about this stuff or you think he's just cashing in, Alex Jones is clearly a capitalist. The dude sells fucking fake gas station dick pills and colloidal silver. Like, this guy is clearly a capitalist. Which makes it, I guess, even more entertaining because it's so ridiculous. But it's just funny to see these two guys just so adamant that they're not capitalists.
There.
This is the one?
She's the one walking around saying she wishes we were dead.
Replay it for yourself. She clearly says that too bad Stalin didn't kill us. So we see these communists down here who say Bush, Kerry both equal war. And we go, yeah, we agree with you. But why are you for communism? Because communism actually, as Professor Carol Quigley at Georgetown, Bill Clinton's mentor, said, was a creation of the big banks to centralize governments and con the people into a movement for the population that was really for the establishment. And they began to threaten to want to kill us. Some of it we got on tape, some of it we didn't. Hey guys, how's it going? Tell us what you think about this.
We're members of the Revolutionary Communist Youth Brigade.
Tell us what you believe in.
That's it, man. If you want to talk to us, you got to talk to us.
You got to talk to Stalin, in other words. If you want to connect an interview, we can hook you up with our spokesperson.
You're not allowed to talk yourself?
Wow. If you want an interview, you should talk to the spokesperson. Well, have fun.
So your leaders don't let you talk yourselves?
They've never been to the Soviet Union, Poland, or anywhere in the Eastern Bloc. Look at them. They're like 18 and 20. Come on.
And you got these old...
Uh-oh.
Why don't you talk to some mainstream Americans?
I'm talking to everybody.
Okay. Okay, we know where you're coming from. You're looking to.
No, we're.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of torn on it. But at the end of the day, I think if you are part of a protest like this, it is better to have a chosen spokesperson. And if the person's like, you can't speak for whatever, then just, you know, I mean, it sucks. It's optically, it's not great, but I think it's the most effective thing because then you don't have people like that are uninformed or underinformed. So, I mean, I think they're right, but then also, like, I still think it looks really bad whenever the people are like, oh, you can't talk for yourself.
Make people in Lima.
No, sir. We're not mainstream media. We're actually trying to just make a documentary about all the different views that are at the convention. And everybody's been real nice to us, but communists, they always flip out when we try to talk to them. So now it is becoming an issue with them because they're so ridiculous.
Yeah, that's...
Documentary
The
on all
message
views.
is what matters, not...
You're very biased. Probably worked for Fox.
Yeah, I probably work for Fox. That's right.
Okay, get lost.
You only knew how ridiculous that was, sir. I've exposed George Bush for carrying out 9/11. I've exposed Bill Clinton. They all work for the globalists. And the globalists funded you little people. You guys need to wake up. Sir,
awesome.
A lot of New Yorkers have said, and the polls show 80% don't want Bush to have the convention here, but they're doing it.
Wait a minute.
Some people say that he's being
Okay, so he just referenced that his poll data showed that 80% of people did not want George Bush there. That's the statistic he got from the cab driver when he asked him what percentage of people. So he is actually quoting
opportunistic, trying to associate
his
himself
own
with 9/11.
one-person poll.
Oh, I disagree entirely. I think this is the perfect venue for Bush and the RNC to hold this event. I mean, New York City is a world capital place, big focus in New York from the rest of America. And I think it's a perfect venue, irrespective of your party leanings.
Have you seen any of the protesters while you've been in town, and what do you think of them if you have?
Well, we've seen a few of them. Mostly, of course, they're kept away from the delegates.
Hey, this is bad luck for GameStop. Is this why the stock went up?
To me, they're not New Yorkers. There's people that have come in and are trying to make New Yorkers look bad. There are a bunch of young kids. I'm wondering how many of those that are out there protesting, one, know what they're voting about, what they're protesting about, and two, are they going to even vote when it comes to the line?
A lot of them are good people and have some legitimate issues, and I've seen people who aren't doing anything, whole streets just scooped up and arrested, and then they brought them out to the dock out there in an old condemned building with asbestos, it's admitted, and have 2,000 of them in there, no air conditioning and cages inside a kind of a Guantanamo camp.
Well, you know, I don't know of any of those issues and facts. If you're going to protest and you know there's a lot of security, this is just not the way to do it. Protest in another venue other than this. You know, I firmly believe in the right to protest, but this is just not a good place to do it. We've had too much problems in this city to bring more problems to this city.
September 11th for a reason as a selling point.
This nation was scared to death when those towers went down.
The term for it is called waving the bloody shirt.
I thought it was manipulative.
Get people, appealing to people's emotions rather than their reason.
I think they took advantage of a bad situation.
So why are you out here?
I'm from California and helping your documentary. We're here to protest the protesters. We're here to tell them they're just a bunch.
Yeah, I'm a firm belief that if you are, especially, like if you're on public property and you're within you should protest anywhere and everywhere for whatever purpose that you want to, because that's the whole point of it. Like, I get that it could be inconvenienced sometimes, and obviously, like, if you go beyond what because they're only going to grant you like the bare minimum of your rights, right? Like, they're not going to, most institutions or organizations or the police or whatever, they're not going to give you a ton of leeway. They're going to hold you to those strict rights, but like, you should just protest anytime, anywhere, for any reason, really, if you want to.
There's no real who are taking advantage of living in America. America is free because people have bled for this country. And we want a strong America, much like we want a strong police
Support
department,
President Bush,
or we're going to
trust
have
in
thugs ruling the streets. We want a strong police, which keeps it safe. We want a strong military, which keeps a good country. Yeah, the same Bible that the president is going to put his hand on that says no same-sex marriage. What are you doing hanging around a bunch of right-wing Christians?
Every protest is going to inconvenience
What are you
somebody.
guys doing hanging around us? This isn't Berkeley, pal. This isn't Berkeley, buddy.
You can't spell Berkeley. How can they leave the borders wide open but then take our liberties?
I'm all for closing the borders. Are you kidding? I'm from California. Our hospitals are costing us $80 for an aspirin because illegal aliens are going into our hospitals.
Oh, boy.
I don't understand what the word is.
Well, why hasn't Bush done something?
Did he say, I don't understand
would like
what
to
the
see
word
him do a
is?
lot more. A lot more with stopping those people from coming over our borders. I don't know what the word illegal and illegal alien means if we don't stop them. America is a great country.
But
We
I also think that,
annihilate
like,
our
when you
enemies.
do protest, you
Would
have
you
to be
please
like,
get that dog
you
out of
have to
here?
respect
There
the
are
rights of people to
homosexuals here in New York.
counter-protest you, and you
You're
kind of
liable
have to
think that's a
understand that people
gerbil
might,
on
like,
steroids. Let's be
say
more
mean shit to
sensitive.
you.
Where's PETA when you
yell
really
at you
need
from
him?
a car.
If those people are going to be in heaven back there, if those people are the ones who have armaments on their poster and everything, if they're going to be in heaven, I'm ready to go to hell.
This New York is a good
God,
example,
wow.
folks, of what you're going to get in your city. This complete control grid, this locked down city where everything is commercialized, whereas you did that bit on your show where they know what you're going to eat before you're going to eat it. You hear about those guys, thought criminals. They're going to blow up something. They have no weapons. Well, and this is the thing, Alex. A lot of these people down here, they want democracy, and it's amazing how they've been conditioned to ask for their own enslavement. It's all they know. They don't understand this is a republic. Look at all of this. I mean, you'd think these people were very informed.
Explain the difference between a republic and democracy.
Well, I mean, basically, the democracy is mob rule. And what these people don't understand is that if 51%, whether they're corporate, whether they're Bushites, whether they're Mexicans, decide their fate, then so be it. That's what they're asking for.
What were his divisions of people?
We're in New York,
Something
ladies and gentlemen.
Bushites
Streets are
and
jammed.
Mexicans?
My friend just called me, and
Fuji
he's right there with Michael Moore right now. I mean, I'm on once 10 minutes. I want to say.
Just tell me, and I'll put it in.
Okay, cool.
All right, cool.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Michael Moore is inside there. Now we're going to answer a question. Did Michael Moore expose the truth about 9/11, or did he whitewash it?
Alex
You know,
Jones
George
versus
Bush
the
has said that
Fuji
anybody that has
sponsored
any
surveillance
connections to
blimp.
Al-Qaeda, should be arrested. Well, no one has greater connections to the Saudis and the House of bin Laden than the Bushes. They've been in business together for decades. George Bush actually started his first oil company way back in 1976 with a member of the bin Laden family and with their funds. The Bushes used them to go after the Soviets back in the 1980s. And bin Laden, according to a Senate report, was actually used to attack the Serbs back in the late 1990s. So when the Serbs fought back, they could say, oh, look, see, they're a bunch of terrorists. We've got to go in and take out the Serbs. My friends, the government had complete and total prior knowledge of the horrible events that happened here.
Do you think
At
he
the bare
means it when he
minimum,
calls us
they
his
allowed this
friend?
tragedy to take place as a pretext to scare the population into total abject fear and then submission. In his film Fahrenheit 9/11, Michael Moore doesn't even talk about things that MSNBC and the Associated Press have reported on. That Osama bin Laden's code name in the CIA was Tim Osman. That he was a CIA asset
Remember when I tried to convince people to move to
and
Serbia?
used against the Russians in the
start like a
1980s in
commune?
Afghanistan. Then, of course, he helped against the Serbs in the late 1990s. Over and over again, Osama bin Laden has been used as a
Osama bin
tool
Laden
of the U.S.
involved
government
with a
and its
Serbian
interest.
film, though?
Anytime they need to create a crisis anywhere on the planet, bin Laden comes to their rescue as the fire starter they need to create the crisis so they can offer their solution. Or why didn't he talk about the huge 9/11 truth movement that sprung up right after 9/11, made up of hundreds of the victims' families of September 11th, alleging government involvement in the attacks? Why didn't the film talk about the official U.S. government plan to carry out terror attacks in America and blame it on foreign enemies? Operation Northwoods. It even
He needs
called
to
for
get back to
hijacking
the
jets by remote
interviews.
control and crashing them, bombing D.C., committing sniper
He's
attacks.
confirmed that he's
No,
dead?
Michael Moore
The
didn't
president
discuss
of,
this.
Iran?
Something ABC News and the
Supreme
Baltimore
leader.
Sun were willing to do, Michael Moore wouldn't get near. Or did you know that it's admitted fact that public officials, federal, state, and local across the land were called by the White House in the days before 9/11
Anyway.
and told not to fly to New York on the day of September 11th? Mayor Willie Brown of San Francisco was called by the White House and told, don't fly to New York on the morning of September 11th. He was called September 10th.
Got a
Why didn't Moore
low-key
talk about
warning.
this? John Ashcroft, the Attorney General, just a few weeks before September 11th, stopped flying commercial, citing a hijacker risk. Most shocking of all, the Joint Chiefs of Staff had a scheduled meeting in New York City on September 11th. But the day before, because of a, quote, warning, they canceled their trip to New York City. They even told MSNBC this, but it's still somewhat of a public
I just smelled
secret,
a nug.
and Michael Moore isn't talking about it. Author Salman Rushdie was warned by the FAA not to fly to New York on the morning of September 11th as well. It was reported by the Times of London. We have the San Francisco Chronicle, MSNBC, the Associated Press.
Okay, do you think he's going to bring up... I don't know if he was as relevant at that time as he is like now, but remember Seth MacFarlane was supposed to be on one of the planes, and he had some kind of an issue and was running late and ended up missing the flight.
Reporting all of this, but still, the average American has been kept in the dark because it's never made the nightly news, and it's certainly never been talked about by Michael Moore. And there was no mention of the fact that NORAD stood down for the first time in its 50-year history. To their credit, something that Michael Moore and the mainstream media did get right was that in the 3 days after September 11th, 2001, over 160 members of Osama bin Laden's family were flown out of the country to Saudi Arabia. This at a time when all commercial and private air traffic was grounded by the Pentagon. But that wasn't the only airlift. Seymour Hersh first broke the story at the New Yorker magazine about the airlift of evil. It was then picked up by major publications, but, well, forgotten into the memory hole. At the end of the
Cargo
3-week-long
plane
Afghan
landed.
war in Afghanistan, 8,000 Taliban and Al-Qaeda leaders were loaded on U.S.
Oh, look at
government
that blatant product placement
C-130s
for
and
Toyota.
flown out to Pakistan to safety. It had been their job to stir up the phony crisis in Afghanistan and then give George W. the fake victory. You see, it was a staged war. And this is one of the other big smoking guns of 9/11 government involvement that we're all supposed to forget about. Oh, the government admits they flew him out to safety, but Fox News said it was an accident. Yes, 8,000 Taliban and Al-Qaeda cream the leaders
That's a
and flown
badass
out to
picture,
safety.
man. That
And
was
top
cool.
generals were told to
Big
release
epic
Taliban
handshake coming
generals.
in.
They were told, let them go. And some of the generals got angry and went public. The FBI has gone public, as well as the CIA. They've even leaked the orders, like W199I, where George Bush ordered them to back off Osama bin Laden and his family. In fact, they even fired some agents that refused to follow their orders. There were red flags everywhere. Everyone knew that the attack was coming. That's why so many public officials didn't go to New York. But months before, there was the Bush administration frustrating the investigations, ordering the agents off the cases, ensuring that the attacks would go forward. Then there were the media reports by respected institutions, backed up by hospital officials at the American hospital in Dubai, Pakistan, of Osama bin Laden meeting with the CIA Middle East section chief for 10 days in July of 2001, months before September 11th.
Le Figaro.
The question is, what was the CIA doing meeting with Osama bin Laden? Getting their story straight? Well, look, 2.5 years ago, I said that Bush was in business with the bin Ladens. Now, FBI agents have gone on C-SPAN and said it. Okay? I mean, it was in the Miami newspapers that they were flying the bin Ladens out. And I'd read it on my radio show, and people call it a conspiracy. It was in the Miami newspapers 2 days after 9/11. They got photos of them flying the bin Ladens out of the country when you and I were not allowed to fly. Bush and his family...
The only thing I see that's Le Figaro with Bin Laden is that he did an interview with someone at UC Davis. Did an interview with somebody. The guy's name is Aziz Zamori Le Figaro. From 2006, he was freed from French prison, Guantanamo. No, first he was freed from Guantanamo, then from French prisons. And then he gave an interview. So maybe Alex Jones is citing that interview.
Got their first money for Bush's Arbusto oil down in Texas from the Bin Laden family. FBI agent Robert Wright at the National Press Club went up there and said, I've been threatened with arrest. If I tell you what I know, here's a letter from the Justice Department. All I can tell you is the Bushes vacation with the Bin Ladens. How many of you know that the supposed hijackers, as turned out 7 of them are still alive? That's the BBC.
What?
So there we were in New York just wanting to talk to Michael Moore and ask him, why didn't you talk about these really important issues, these central issues? And in between his bodyguards coming over and shoving on us and telling us not to videotape him through the window, we began to realize that Michael Moore really does George Bush a favor. In his film, he acts like Bush is just some idiot who accidentally allowed 9/11 to happen because he was on too many vacations, out fishing too much. Oh no, that wasn't the reality. The reality is Bush and his corporate interest stood to gain from 9/11. And Michael Moore is covering up those facts.
And you don't want to let him eat, and once he eats, you can take his picture. Do you like your phone ringing when you're eating dinner?
I'm not calling him. In reality, Mr. Moore had just completed his photo op for just a few minutes, marching at the head of the parade with other genuine establishment libs like Jesse Jackson. Then he ducked into the taco bar, had the general public thrown out, and began, gobbling. And I wonder what he was thinking while he was eating. Man, are they going to catch on to me as the hours went by? Are they going to find out that I'm really a fake and a corporate shill that flies around in a corporate jet? All those years I chased the corporate bigwigs around and was thrown out of office buildings and stood outside restaurants, and now I've become what I always said I hated. Or maybe I was always what I claimed I hated. Yes, Mr. Moore, we have nothing against you, but you...
Okay, so whatever else he's wrong about, he's right about Michael Moore 100% in my opinion.
You made a film. You claim that you exposed George Bush. You gave him aid and comfort. You covered up the reality of premeditated involvement in 9/11 and played into that popular little folky image of Bush the idiot elf. Bush is a puppet for a hardcore global crime syndicate setting up a world government and turning America into a high-tech police state. But I guess, though, it won't matter to people like you. You'll have a fake war to fight, while all the time you're truly covering up
everything
the real
he's saying
political
about Michael
paradigm.
Moore, 100% true, but it absolutely
Did he already sneak out? Out that way?
He's gone.
How many bodyguards does Michael Moore have?
I'm not gonna tell you.
Pero aquel digo que definitivamente tienen ver allí, vamos a ir.
Hey, Michael, why don't you talk about NORAD standing
what's
down?
up, Pan? Yeah, we're watching a 9/11 conspiracy documentary. Well, documentary.
Why don't you talk about NORAD standing down, Michael? Why not the really hardcore 9/11 issues?
Hardcore 9/11
Michael
issues.
Moore and the controlled opposition like him may be afraid to even scratch the surface of 9/11, but we're not. We're going to go to the rock bottom of this horrible event.
Oh yeah, you're going to go to rock
who
bottom,
truly
buddy.
perpetrated it, because the future of America and free humanity hangs in the balance.
Yeah, documentary adjacent.
My name is Greg Palast. I report for BBC Television. I was a writer for the Guardian newspapers.
Is this
the main
Mr.
paper
Burns?
of Europe. Wait,
Is
they're
this
covering
young Mr.
protests here.
Burns?
Let's see. There's a picture in the New York Times of a scantily clad woman who was listed as a young communist
World
poet.
Trade Center.
Let's see, there was a AIDS protester, who looked scary and spooky and is about to infect the rest of America, shown. But you know, you don't have what we're literally hundreds of thousands of average people.
Yeah,
just
you
saying,
missed
you know,
it
we're fed
earlier,
up
Pan.
and
He got
we
into it
dissent.
with another guy
And we
that
don't
was
like
just
what's
as
going
crazy
on.
as
Why don't
him,
you
and they
listen to
just
us? That's what people
kept
saying.
calling each other
Listen to us.
alternatively
We have a very
capitalist
interesting
and
summer camp here in
communist.
New York. 2,000 people locked up in a condemned building out on the pier.
Yes,
while the
he kind of
police
does
say
look
they've
like a
arrested
clown.
300, there are 2,000 being detained. What
Go
we
on.
see in Baghdad,
He looks like the
becomes in
eagle
New York
from the
this
Muppets.
week,
You know what I'm
Baghdad
talking
light.
about?
So instead of
Ooh, Abu
heavy,
Ghraib.
tortured shackles,
Where's
you have
Lindsay?
plastic handcuffs, but it still has the same purpose: keep the population
gonna like-
in line. This is not the United States of America that we
Pointing at the
pledged
guy's dick.
allegiance to as little kids. You know, we were very proud of the First Amendment, and you could dissent in the USA. And now suddenly dissent is becoming, they're labeling dissent as unpatriotic.
We're in New York City, right here on the Hudson River. And this condemned former bus station where they stored the buses is being used to hold over 2,000 protesters. And they admit that they randomly set up fences and scoop up whole crowds of people and then take them here. And for over 3 days, they've not let people talk to lawyers, call out, talk to their families. Some have been released. Some have gone to the hospital with rashes over their entire bodies. This building is condemned. The city admits it. The bus union wouldn't allow them to use it years ago, so they turned it into an emergency police facility. It's full of asbestos, chemicals, oils from decades and decades and decades in this 70-year-old building. And the average stay for someone scooped up in there is over 24 hours. The city even admits that.
Many of the nearly 2,000 protesters arrested over the past few days have been taken to an old bus depot
Pier
on Manhattan's
57
west
is a
side.
joke, man.
But
Pier
now the use
6
of Pier
is where it's
57
at.
as a temporary holding facility is stirring up some controversy of its own.
I tried to pack my one
Protests
here.
are
It's
being
already
held there to
packed.
spotlight conditions. Some of those being detained say they're getting sick. There are reports of cramped conditions, rashes, chemical burns, and difficulty breathing.
We should call this facility what it is, and it's a concentration camp. It's the Pier 57 concentration camp.
The mayor has the nerve, and the police commissioner has the nerve to allow this to happen, to actually stick people in an oil-filled garage with asbestos. The orange nets are about 4 feet high. They're used in construction to wrap construction sites so people can't get in or out. And the police just bring them around you, and you can't escape. I've been promoting that idea that we're heading for a fascist dictatorship here, and obviously people are beginning to go, I'm beginning to think you were right. And I think tomorrow we got to get everybody out there at Ground Zero between 1 and 6 p.m.
Folks,
to try to
they
get
are
the truth
holding
brought out.
protesters hostage
To urge Elliot Spitzer
at an
to reopen this case.
asbestos-lined abandoned bus station.
Now you're going to learn the truth about 9/11 that others dare not tell you. We're here at Ground Zero, and a big protest is gathering and preparing to march across town. And behind us, you can see the militarized police are massing for a response if there's any type of problems that develop. This is a hallmark of a society in decline, where you have peaceful protesters showing up at Ground Zero, calling for peace, and you have police officers not with just non-lethal weapons, but with fully automatic rifles. You see the founding fathers, they stood up, they were 4% at the beginning, and they said no to the redcoats and no to the establishment. And Mark Twain said, in the beginning, a patriot is a scarce man. He's hated and feared. But in time, when his cause succeeds, the timid join him, because then it costs nothing to be a patriot. And we're looking for patriots that know what the Bill of Rights and Constitution says, and that can see all of this and know that it's a fraud. Get that guy.
He's trying to take pictures of me. He's got you already.
Hey, get him. Gonna make you a star. Better hold it up there all day. You with, buddy? Huh? No, seriously.
I have a job to do. You're going to interfere with my job, then we're going to be in trouble. Okay?
Okay, I got to talk about this for just a second. So Alex Jones is someone who takes his camera out in public and sticks it in people's faces and asks them questions, puts them on the spot, doesn't think anything of it. This guy here, all he was doing was standing there taking pictures at an event where tons of people were taking pictures, including Alex Jones. And Alex Jones is like pissed off enough to stalk this guy out of the event and like confront him.
Really, sir, you shouldn't identify yourself. You know in the state of New York that's assault, what you just did. And I'm asking you a question, sir. Why are you harassed? Who do you work for? You work for City of New York just to document people? Huh? Well, you need to tell us. I mean, this is a free country.
Alex?
I mean, this is disgusting. Get some more of this guy. Well, there's your badge. Can we have your badge number, please?
Nope. See my boss over there.
Who's your boss?
Any one of those people. Boss on.
Do you think God is a conscious?
Sir, can you tell me this guy's badge number? Secret police just covers his badge up. Secret police in America.
Secret
Out
police
photographing
in
people.
America, folks.
Secret police are surveilling us from a Fuji blimp high
That's
above
the
the
shot.
city while we rot in asbestos-lined
That's the
prison
shot right there.
cells in an abandoned bus station.
Get it. There he is. Get it.
This is wild.
Infowars.com. See yourselves. You're going to look good. Everywhere we traveled in New York, secret police videotaped and took photographs of us. But it wasn't just our crew. It was the mainstream media and the general public at large that were being photographed. But the worst area of all was Ground Zero, where the police took photographs of protesters and attempted to intimidate them as well. The police photographing the citizens is bad enough, but across the country we've caught the military photographing the public, as well as working with the police at football and baseball games, searching people's goods. Why in Alabama, the Alabama Defense Force comes out, forms cordons around whole cities during different festivals, and searches every man, woman, and child, training them how to live in a high-tech police state. And now our police themselves are beginning to turn into the military. And guess what the military does? They fight an enemy. They are set up to kill people and break things.
And Susan, back to
Sir,
you.
I just wanted to say that.
Well, we're going to leave it at that. Thanks very much. We'll be back outside Madison Square Garden in a few minutes.
And Susan, of course, the floor is empty, but they're here, and lest we be accused of not hearing all voices, we cut you off a moment ago. This is Alex Jones from Austin, Texas, a radio talk show host.
Yes, sir, with Infowars.com, both candidates are cousins. They're skull and bones. They're bringing in big government and tyranny. The evidence is clear. The military-industrial complex was intimately involved in 9/11. The commission is a complete fraud. We're losing our freedoms. Both parties are controlled, and if we don't wake up and stand up and speak out, this country's going to be destroyed. Giving up liberty only gives us tyranny. It does not give us security, and I hope that everybody out there wakes up to this and realizes that America is America because we have the Bill of Rights and Constitution. Everybody should investigate 9/11 and find out who's really behind it. It's Bush's and the New World Order's Reichstag, and his cousin Kerry isn't going to save you either. Thank you, PrisonPlanet.com.
Alex Jones.
There's been an almost total media blackout on the fact
That's how you make
that
use of
most
a,
of the 9/11 victims' families
unexpected media
are angry
appearance.
at the government and believe that they had prior knowledge or
Yeah,
were involved.
it was like
they
he
couldn't
practiced
cover
in
it
the
up
mirror.
when
That was
families came to New
impressive,
York
honestly.
for the 9/11
Like, he
Commission
really,
and got in Giuliani's
there was
face.
no wasted time. He made sure to wrap up before it got cut off.
Is that unfair? And what about the bunker? You didn't ask him about the bunker, the Office of Emergency Management bunker on fire? It burned.
We are getting ready for the next panel.
Remember this. Your government funded and trained Al-Qaeda. Repeat it again. Your government funded and trained Al-Qaeda. 3,000 people murdered does not mean leadership. It means a vacuum
very
of
much for
leadership.
your
Let us ask
leadership
real questions.
and your
Here's another thing the media continually buries. Giuliani got rid of all the evidence, all the steel from the Twin Towers. He immediately shipped it off. Giuliani's a former U.S. prosecutor. He knows a thing about keeping the evidence in a crime scene. And Giuliani suddenly got rid of every piece of evidence. He melted down all the steel, and the media didn't report it. That's not interesting. The families had to go testify to Congress to say, FEMA, you got to stop Giuliani from doing this. They tried to get Congress to stop Giuliani, and Giuliani said, oh, I didn't know anybody wanted me to keep any of the evidence. Well, my simple message is this. Again, Americans, wake up. You know your media lies to you every day. Your government has on record for hundreds of years lying to you every day. That's all I ask. Wake up, pay a little more attention, and don't believe anything you read in the papers.
How many times have we caught them lying to us?
Yeah, how many? Well, they just closed the Office of Disinformation, didn't they?
Why isn't that Zogby poll headline news today?
Yeah, why isn't that Zogby poll headline news? It should be.
Because every media in the country got it. Zogby sent it out to everyone.
What are you going to do when 92% think like us? Well, why isn't the media talking about that? That's a big deal that a majority of New Yorkers believe what we believe in the new major Zogby poll. Why isn't that a major issue? And what is the establishment going to do when everybody thinks like we do?
And on Monday, that Zogby poll was released that showed 50% of New York City residents believe the government had foreknowledge and made a conscious decision not to intervene. 50% of the people who live in New York believe that. Well, it's time for a serious investigation.
The only podcast I
Then
really listen to
CNN
is,
conducted
Jim
its own
Cornette.
poll on Anderson Cooper's program 360. After an hour-long show where he and others demonized members of the 9/11 skeptics movement, they conducted their own poll, and an amazing 90% of respondents out of over 7,000 believe that there was a U.S. government cover-up. All of the people involved in the cover-up of September 11th have gotten wealthy off of it or gotten even richer. And then now September 11th is being used to kill our freedoms, to destroy what America is built on, what America is supposed to really be about.
Most of my friends have questions about what happened on 9/11, and we'd like to know answers. And we're very disappointed in President Bush's reaction to 9/11.
My name is Les. Live here in New York City, and I'm part of a contingent that has vigils here at Ground Zero every Saturday. We've been doing it since January, actually. And I've seen a lot of interesting things, heard a lot of interesting things from people. A few just happened today. A woman came up saying that her family received a phone call from a family friend. She was told by this family friend on September 10th, the family friend was a Navy SEAL, told not to show up in Lower Manhattan tomorrow, which was, of course, the 11th. There's going to be a major event.
MSNBC investigated the hundreds of reports of individuals in the towers being told not to go to work that day or being told to get out early that morning. And they found out that, yes, it was not an urban legend. It was true. They found hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of witnesses. And then the Israeli instant messaging company, Odago, admitted publicly, told Haaretz, one of the biggest papers in Israel, that yes, they got a warning and instant messaged hundreds of their employees in the towers and told them to leave the building 4 hours before the planes slammed into it.
But did they
This
leave?
is on the record and cannot be
called?
ignored.
Odago?
Students pointed up at the towers and told their school teachers in the weeks before 9/11 that those buildings are about to come down. They're about to be destroyed. And then on top of this, we have the public officials being warned. Total evidence of prior knowledge. And while we were in New York, we talked to dozens of eyewitnesses who had been personally warned themselves, but were afraid to come public. Some have been told to keep their mouths shut.
I was a rescue worker. I will say that I spoke to a cop on 9/11 who said that it was going to come down. I don't know how he knew that. He did tell me before it happened, before the fact that it was coming down.
The widows from the police department and the fire department were standing at the new school in back for the 2 days, and they were screaming at the media, please pay attention.
Okay,
we
so
got phone
Snopes
calls.
says that
We
it was not
listened that
true
their husbands
that
or their
Odago
children
did
were
not-
saying there's
that
explosives
story's
coming
not
on like the
accurate.
23rd, 26th floor before the buildings went down. And the media started laughing and said, we have no time to hear you.
So you'll have to weigh Alex Jones versus
Larry Silverstein
Snopes
originally owned
for
Building
your
7,
fact check
and a few
of,
months before 9/11, he bought the entire complex, all 7 of the buildings, and then he took out a record insurance policy on them. Building 7 and what happened to it is so important because the official story is 2 jets flew into the buildings, we all agree on that, and that their jet fuel caused the steel to melt and caused them to collapse. But then we look at Building 7, which was the furthest away of any of these buildings from Tower 1 and 2, and it wasn't even damaged, but later that afternoon caught on fire. Now they've rebuilt Building 7. Here's Tower 1 and 2. Obviously, you all know those were hit by jet aircraft. And then we have Building 7, the furthest away from all the other buildings. Building 7 was 47 stories tall. Building 7 was not hit by an aircraft. Building 7 did not catch fire from these buildings. But later in the afternoon, mysteriously, it caught on fire. And then after 4:30 p.m., the firefighters told everybody to get back. They were, quote, going to pull the building, the demolition term for demolishing one. They told Associated Press reporters, get back, we're going to pull it. And this building that wasn't hit by a plane, that had no damage to it, collapsed symmetrically. Building 7 was a block away where my hand is, but the red flashing square is where Bankers Trust still stands today. It had Tower 1 fall onto it, but just had light damage. The owner, Larry Silverstein, of the entire complex, got on TV and said that they had blown up Building 7. He said they pulled it, demolition. Well, Silverstein owned them all.
Oh, Silverstein owned all the buildings. Yeah. How many buildings are gone?
All of them.
How many is that?
That's right. That plane wasn't, that building wasn't hit by a plane.
9 buildings are gone.
Yeah.
Thousands of people lost their
That
lives.
building.
Hundreds more.
And there's an official U.S. government plan to carry out the attacks.
He imploded that building on himself.
He admitted it. He said it on television.
He brought that building out.
Yes. Larry Silverstein.
So you understand?
Larry Silverstein on America Rebuilding on PBS said that they blew up Building 7.
Building up 7. Even though
he saw it. Did you see it on PBS?
Yeah, he pulled it.
He said on PBS, he said, we pulled the building. PBS.
Oh, yeah, he pulled the building.
Pelted by debris when the North Tower collapsed. 7 burned until late afternoon, allowing occupants to evacuate to safety.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire.
Okay, USA Today says that it is false that Building 7
is pull it. And they made that decision to pull.
Controlled demolition.
Watch the building collapse.
So you'll have to weigh Alex Jones versus USA Today.
Yeah, he said we're going to pull. He said we're going to pull the building. Silverstein said we're going to pull the building.
And we got the firemen saying they pulled it. I mean, Silverstein goes on PBS and says it, and we're the weirdos when he says it on TV. Unbelievable. Let's see that one more time.
Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
It takes demolition experts weeks to prepare for the destruction of a building. How do they do it on 9/11 in just a few hours? In the tragic days after 9/11, many prominent engineers across the world went public and said there's no way that fire destroyed any of those buildings. It's never happened to a modern building. Buildings have burned for 6-7 days before, and it hasn't happened. The answer was hidden in plain view. Larry Silverstein went on PBS and said that they had pulled the building, demolition term for destroying it. In fact, the local public radio station was told that they were going to demolish Building 7. But since then, the public has been told to be quiet, not to ask questions.
Listen.
And the government hasn't even given us an
message for the
official
general
story
public.
of why
Be
Building
quiet.
7 fell.
Thank
They
you.
say they think fire caused it to fall. And in case you're wondering what pull it means, here's another example, where they again use the term pull it to mean controlled demolition of buildings. Months after 9/11, the remains of 4, 5, and 6 were destroyed. Here's a clip from the same PBS documentary where the head of engineering for the city of New York describes pull it as a controlled demolition.
By mid-December, the Department of Design and Construction had leveled World Trade Center buildings 4 and 5.
Hello? Oh, we're getting ready to pull Building 6.
We have to be very careful how we demolish Building 6. We were worried about the Building 6 coming down and then damaging the slurry wall, so we wanted that particular building to fall within a certain area.
There's a certain excitement in the air of bringing the last structure down at the World Trade Center.
Seconds after 7 collapsed, this is what Dan Rather had to say about it.
Large building. In most other cities, it'd be one of the largest buildings in town, probably. Trade Center Building 7 has collapsed. Now, here we're going to show you a videotape of the collapse itself. Now we go to videotape, the collapse of this building.
It's amazing.
Amazing, incredible, pick your word. For the 3rd time today, it's reminiscent of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before when a building was deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down.
Just in case you missed it, here it is again.
Deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down. Deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down.
This is a photo taken 1 second into Building 7's collapse. Notice the crimp. If we look at other controlled demolitions, we see that they first blow one of the central columns so the building falls in on itself. If you don't do this, the building falls outward and has a wider collapse radius and can damage surrounding structures. This was not the case with Building 7. Building 7 had a classic crimp or wedge. Its central column was blown out first, so it didn't structurally damage buildings just a few feet away from it.
Building 7, while I was listening to live feed from our local public radio station later in the afternoon, they talked about Building 7. Building 7 was fine. There was no airplane that hit it. And then they even began to ruminate on the air about demolishing the building. I said, well, I don't know. I mean, you can put out fires. You know, why would you talk about demolishing a building that, you know, it wasn't hit by anything? You know, the fires weren't bad or anything like that.
What was in Building 7? Well, the Department of Defense, the Central Intelligence Agency, FEMA, U.S. Secret Service, Securities and Exchange Commission, and the city's main command bunker, overseeing the entire operation. That's what was in Building 7. A structure that was over-engineered, that could stand thousands and thousands and thousands of degrees of temperature for days if need be. But it collapsed in just a few seconds. Here we are, smack dab, right in the middle of Silverstein Properties. In the next few minutes, we're going to talk about Mr. Silverstein and go over the history of the World Trade Center complex and some very serious questions that need to be answered. You know, it's interesting to note that Larry Silverstein bought this building.
Hey, so I do appreciate the fact that Alex Jones is about getting the shot and getting out. Like, you don't see him getting frustrated when people walk through the frame. And I mean, if you watch more modern content, you very rarely see that, or people are so entitled that, like, they think that people shouldn't walk through their shot. But, like, Alex Jones is just like, he keeps talking.
Many years, the only building he bought in the complex. But 2 months before 9/11, he bought the entire complex, all 7 buildings, and took out a record insurance policy on them for over $3 billion, which he's now been paid. In fact, he tried to get even more. He wanted $7 billion on an original $200 million investment that they made on the entire complex when he leased the whole structure. Mr. Silverstein did quite nicely in his investment. Also, Mr. Silverstein, quote, with a shadowy group of investors, according to the Chicago Tribune, just bought the Sears Tower, one of the next big targets the government's been saying. We hope and pray that nothing ever bad happens, and that's why we're here exposing who may have motives in not stopping further events. The command center for Rudolph Giuliani was in this building. Rudolph Giuliani had his command bunker in this structure, and so did the CIA. It wasn't just the city of New York. The CIA, the FBI were all based in this building. And Rudolph Giuliani told ABC News that he got a call that morning about 8 hours before this collapse, before a fire even started, and was told, get out of Building 7. And he left to a FEMA command base that had already been set up the night before, which he's now admitted in congressional testimony, right down the street by the harbor. A lot of interesting timing. And since 9/11, Giuliani's gone into the terror fighting business, and he's made hundreds of millions of dollars with Giuliani and Associates. Interesting. And then, of course, we have George Bush's youngest brother, Marvin Bush, running security on the complex. And, of course, his contract, by the way, ended on the morning of 9/11. So that's another interesting facet to all of this. None of it adds up. But guess who ran security on these buildings? Marvin Bush, brother of the president, son of the former president, or the former CIA director. Marvin Bush ran security for this whole complex. This is awesome. This whole complex. And guess when his 2-year contract ended? This is the Associated Press on September 11th. And where did the media pick up on this story? From Barbara Bush's own memoir, Reflections. She wrote about it in the book. Then you have the firefighters telling Associated Press reporters to get back, to get away from the building, that Building 7 was about to come down. And then it magically did come down. And then the University of New York and the U.S. Geological Survey, federal and state, both seismographs picked up explosions going off, the classical pattern of a controlled demolition. He said that they made the decision on the afternoon of 9/11 to go ahead and pull or demolish Building 7, and that they gave the order and watched the building go down. Building 7 is further away from the towers and was not hit by planes. It's further away from the towers than buildings right across the street like the Millennium Hilton and others. So if your building's owned by Larry Silverstein, it collapses because he's got a big fat insurance policy. But if your building's closer and owned by somebody else, it doesn't get damaged at all. Why is the story of Building 7 so important? Why don't we spend so much time on it? Because the official story is that the two planes that hit Tower 1 and 2, the big 110-story buildings, caused them to collapse, even though a modern steel building can never collapse from fire. But then we have Building 7 that was further away than any of the buildings in the complex that later in the afternoon got a few small fires in it and collapsed. Now they have almost rebuilt Building 7 on the exact same spot. And look, buildings right next to it, even though it collapsed on fire, didn't even get that much damage. And then we have this huge building that was right beside Tower 1 and 2 that was hit by giant chunks of the building that did catch on fire, but nothing collapsed. The difference between that building and the new Building 7 is that Larry Silverstein doesn't own that building. Larry Silverstein doesn't own the Millennium Hilton that was closer than Building 7. But every building he owned either caught on fire or mysteriously collapsed. There has been a...
Okay. So I'm going to take a 2-second break here. And then we'll come back for the last half.